everybody, greetings and welcome to Kinesiology 3346. I am your instructor, Dr. Toby Brooks, and I am super stoked that you have decided to join me this semester on this journey through neuromuscular anatomy. This course is near and dear to my heart. It's been one that I've taught probably longer than any other course, and this version is kind of new and refreshed, and I'm pretty excited about it. So I think all of you have had anatomy before. Most of you are kin majors. You love sport. This is where those worlds collide, and it's my hope that you walk out of here with a fresh understanding of how those two things can and should live together as you go on to do the things you're going to do, whether that's AT, PT, OT, coaching, whatever. Understanding how the science and the art of sport can interact with one another is really my purpose for you this semester. So the purpose of this video is to just kind of walk you through the basics of the course, go through the syllabus together, and make sure that you're comfortable with what we have to do. We have a lot. There is much ground to cover, but I think if this semester holds true to form with previous semesters, it's going to be a wild but a very fruitful ride for you. So on the website for the course, mine's going to look a little bit different from yours because obviously I'm the instructor, but I've got everything set up with the exception of this video, and so I can show you how to navigate it and where you can find things. So I'm going to drag this over so we can take a look. Once this is done, hopefully you will find your way to this link, and that's why you're watching. Course introductions here tells you a little bit about me. I teach at the Health Sciences Center in the Master of Athletic Training program, the PhD in Rehab Sciences, and the SCD in Rehab Sciences, and have for the past 10 years. And Texas Tech has become my second home. Love it here. My family is, we're firmly entrenched in Lubbock. So I've tried my very best to organize the course as much as possible so that there's never any question about what's due, when it's due, those kinds of things. And I found that using this arrangement really helps. As an online course, we don't meet day to day, and that can make things difficult. So I want to be crystal clear on what you have to do and when. So if you take a peek inside any of these weekly folders, you will see exactly what I'm talking about. So I've listed out the instructions and objectives for the week along with your assignments, with the lone exception of the final exam. So hear me clearly, with the lone exception of the final exam. Every other assignment will be due on Friday by 11:59 p.m. The final's different because finals week is different. So make sure you record those due dates in your phone, planner, or whatever you use to keep track of dates. I don't have a grace policy per se. If you miss an assignment, it's just a zero, and there's nothing you can do to undo that unless it was an unforeseeable circumstance. So these instructions and objectives are here for you to look over. Anytime you see where it says download PowerPoint Lesson 1, I've provided that in both a PDF handout and a PowerPoint file that you can pull out and print in any way, shape, or form that you want. And then there's a link to a screencast for that week's assignment. And so lots of times online classes that I have had are just PowerPoints and you're expected to just read on your own. I don't learn well using that approach. I find that hearing my professor talk through a presentation is much more effective for me, so that's how I've set this up. So between the screencasts and then the threaded discussions that you will have to do, where you get to weigh in with your opinion, most of them are not right or wrong answers, they're just opinion. My hope is that this feels a lot more interactive than a lot of your more typical online courses might be. So here you see TD1, that stands for threaded discussion. You'll be graded on your single contribution to the discussion, but by all means you are not forbidden from chiming in on your classmates. In fact, I want you to do that. because it's going to make for a much richer discussion. Okay, so I'm going to go back to the syllabus here. So the textbook we'll be using, I would strongly encourage you to buy it. Lots of times in classes they're like, oh, you don't really need it. It's an excellent book. It's a little pricey, but you can get it used. Lots of times students ask, hey, if I found the 19th edition on Amazon and it's half the price. It's pretty similar. Anatomy doesn't change from year to year. It's just the organization and the arrangement in the textbook changes. All of my references for the reading assignments come from the 20th edition, but it's pretty straightforward. I mean, if you know we're talking about the knee, maybe it's one chapter in one edition and another chapter in another, but you can still find the knee. So I would encourage you to buy the 20th if you can. If budget's an issue, you find a super cheap version or a roommate has an older version, then that will probably be okay. So every week has the PDF and the PowerPoint lesson, or the PDF and the native PowerPoint file. And then every week has a screencast as well, with the exception of the midterm week. And we've got one extra week in there where I ask you to reflect where there's not a screencast. Okay, so a lot of this is just your standard run-of-the-mill syllabus stuff. We're basically going to talk about general concepts of kinesiology, things like planes and axes, medical or anatomical terminology, and then we're going to get into the specific body parts where we look piece by piece at the muscles and their origins, insertions, actions, and innervations. And I'll give you some tools along the way that will help you in studying for those. But really, it's just a lot of work. Okay, this is not conceptual. There's a fair amount of memorization that needs to occur here. And then later in the semester, once you have those basics down, then we're going to put it into action. So we'll talk about motion analysis in the upper and lower extremities. So those last two lessons are really my favorite, because it's like, okay, we've spent the time, we've invested the energy that it takes to learn these muscles. Now let's talk about, from a coaching standpoint, how can we make that better? So as far as grades go, there are 10 total threaded discussions, and I ask you to write a fair amount, not just a sentence. I mean, this is worth 5 points, so give me some description of what you're trying to say, what you're trying to support. There'll be 5 short quizzes. Usually those are 10 questions worth 2 points apiece. 5 of those, so 20 total points, so 100 total points for the 5 quizzes. You'll do 2 video summaries, one at midterm and one at the end of the year. I like this because it gives me a chance to get to see you in action. It also is good practice. A lot of jobs are going to Skype and to WebEx and these different types of video teleconferencing platforms. So if you've never done it before, you're going to hate it. I'll go ahead and warn you, but hopefully by the second one it'll be a little bit more comfortable. So it's valuable for multiple reasons. So those are the video summaries. And then there's basically just 2 written tests, a midterm and a final, worth 100 points apiece. For the video summaries, if you don't already have a YouTube channel, you're gonna create one. Your videos should be set to unlisted, not private. If it's set to private, only the account owner, when they're logged in, can see those. So if you send me that link and I can't see it, you're going to get docked points. So make sure you post it appropriately. You can set it to public if you want, but I don't require that. Okay. I do my best to get your stuff graded and turned around as quickly as possible. I take a lot of pride in making sure, I mean, this is not just a class I'm doing for extra money. This is something I'm passionate about, and lots of times, I mean, I've had students almost every semester who have come over to the Health Sciences Center eventually, and so I want this to be a good experience for you. And part of that is you shouldn't submit an assignment and have it sit there for weeks and weeks at a time without it being graded. Some other things, just kind of standard operating procedures here, and then we get into the plan of study. And so anything you see in bold here is an assignment, and as we said, these are always Fridays at 11:59 p.m. or before. Typically they will open either the Friday before or maybe the Monday before, so you'll have at minimum 5 days, sometimes as much as 7, Like a lot of the threaded discussions, as soon as one closes, the next one opens up. But a lot of times on the quizzes and things like that, I don't open them until the Monday. That way I know that we've completed that block, we've got the weekend, and then we start the next block. So if you are trying to work ahead, sorry, the goal of this class is to keep us in sync so that the discussion can be better. So this isn't something that you can just sit down, the week before the end of the semester and knock out the whole course at once. You have to work in sequence. That's how it's been laid out, that's how it's been designed, and that's how learning occurs. Okay, so you see all these bolded bullet points. You see our midterm exam on March 6th or before, and then we've basically kind of got a week there for you to reflect before spring break. There wasn't anything I could plug in here that really made a lot of sense, so I wanted you to just kind of take that time to take an inventory of what you've learned, what you hope to learn. By that point, we will have gone through the upper extremity, and you'll be ready to learn the lower extremity. By the time we get to late April, we get into the fun part. That's the application. Okay, so these last two sections, there's really not a chapter in your textbook. This is where that knowledge gets put into action. Now, there's a grade calculator here. I will tell you, hear me, listen closely. The grade calculator on Blackboard is only accurate if you have no missed assignments. Okay? If you have 1 0 or 5 zeros, it's going to calculate your average midstream. Okay, say we're sometime in March and you want to check your grade and you forgot that you've missed all 3 quizzes. It's not going to factor those zeros in. Okay, so you're going to have an inflated sense of what your grade is. And so the only way to really know midstream how you're doing is to use this grade calculator. Okay, so the threaded discussion 1, if there are 5 points available and I get 5 points, I just divide those out. I got 5 possible, or I earned 5 points out of 5 possible. That's a 100. Okay, and so I just record these as I go, and I can tell based on these calculations what my grade is. Okay, so if I've got something like this, if Blackboard isn't factoring in this 25 points worth of zeros, and it's only considering this 35, this will be 33 out of 35 here. Okay, so that's going to be a solid A. But in actuality, it's 33 out of 60, which is an F. Okay, so use this tool. Add up your points possible and divide them by points earned, and you will know exactly what your grade is at any one time. Okay, so that's the syllabus. If you've got any questions about that, you can reach me at the email on the syllabus. I would caution you against sending me a message in Blackboard. I don't remember to check that very often, whereas my TTU HSC email I check almost constantly. It's sent to my phone and I will get that message. Whereas if you're sending me a message here, it might be a week or 2. So I'm not ignoring you, I just don't remember to check it. Okay. So that is that. If you've got any questions or concerns, let me know, but I'm looking forward to having a great semester. This is Brooks, signing out.